St. John's Presbyterian Church. I'm Pastor Max Lynn. It is an honor and a privilege to host this group of distinguished panelists. Thank you for being here. And each and every one of you. I want to thank Bob Jaffe for his organizing. And Occupy area, Bay Area Jewish contingent. Especially for asking us to be a part of it. Code Pink and all sorts of groups. St. John's has a long history of being a community which values civil liberties, human rights, peace, and justice. During World War II, when Japanese Americans were unexpectedly and rapidly interned, the pastor, Stanley Armstrong Hunter, got a list of Japanese American students from Berkeley High and went and visited each of the families. Then the church petitioned for their release. When Hunter's dry cleaner friend was in danger of losing his business, he bought it for $1. And then when he got out, he sold it back to him for $1. In the 1980s, when refugees were fleeing El Salvador and Guatemala, and the U.S. government wouldn't recognize them as refugees because they didn't want to acknowledge that there was a war that they were helping to execute. St. John's joined with 5 other churches to declare sanctuary, to act in civil disobedience against the U.S. immigration laws. St. John's literally housed refugees in the church. On the property, we have a 2-bedroom apartment upstairs. And we sought to tell the truth about the impact of U.S. foreign policy on Central America. There's a long list of issues and concerns. We protest Iraq and Afghanistan for creating more enemies than eliminating. We've advocated for civil and ecclesiastical rights for gays and lesbians, for full and open dialogue, civil, human rights, peace, and justice for both Israelis and Palestinians. For immigration reform, for climate change legislation, public development of water, and banking finance reform. Against our fellow Christians who would claim exclusive rights and blessings from God. We have made a point of welcoming people of different faiths to worship here at St. John's, Aquarian Dominion being one such group. We are quite sure that the more arrogant our faith, the further we are from the God of grace and truth. These actions are based upon ideas that we are all children of God. We all fall short of the glory of God. And we are all called to love our neighbor as ourselves. We follow the tradition of such Presbyterians as John Witherspoon, Reinhold Niebuhr, and Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Bonhoeffer had a safe post at Union Seminary in New York, yet returned to his homeland of Germany after Hitler came to power. He wanted to join with his fellow Germans and Christians in a vocal criticism of Hitler's repression of civil liberties, nationalization of the church, and Nazi anti-Semitism. He was executed a month before the end of the war. The design of our nation's government follows the Presbyterian form of government coming out of the Church of Scotland. In our representative democracy, we value majority rule, but also protect minority voice and vote. There is a line in our historical principles that reads, "Truth is in order to goodness." In other words, we are not to say one thing and do another, and how we live our personal and collective lives matters. The truth matters. So promoting dialogue, protecting minority voice, protecting civil and human rights of all is essential to the faith of St. John's, and so the move of our civil government to slice up our civil rights treads on dangerous historical ground. And as Christians, it is our honor and duty to be with you here tonight. And I thank you all very much for being here. Robert Jaffe is coming up, and he became upset with the NDAA legislation, sought to help the case, is the primary funder of the evening. And thank you very much for being here tonight. Thank you.
Well, thank you, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to our event. Welcome to St. John's. I've been on this stage many times before in religious services, but this is a new task. Just a couple of notes here. You've already received on your seat, or you should have, a sign-up sheet giving us information that we will use to contact you by email or however you want us to contact you. There's also on your seat a petition for nominating Bradley Manning for a Nobel Prize. Did you all get that? There's also a thank you note to Ed Snowden as well. So that's on your seat as well. I'm going to be very brief because I really want to get to the event, and I know you want to hear the panelists speak. And I'm the moderator. I'll be keeping, there's two questions that I'll be posing to our panelists. I'll introduce them in a minute. We will have, following the panel discussion, question and answer period, hopefully we'll have maybe an hour, 45 minutes. So I began this journey as a volunteer. I was aghast at the passage of the NDAA in late 2011. I just by chance happened to call the attorneys who filed this incredible constitutional challenge to the military detention. And I was asked if I wanted to volunteer. Well, of course I wanted to volunteer. It turns out there were only 2 attorneys who volunteered to help on this case, actual volunteer. This is one of the reasons why we're here and why I did this. Is okay, good, sorry. Good, remind me. You will, I'm sure. I'm only one of 2 attorneys who volunteered to help on the military detention case. The other attorney is David Reams, Guantanamo defense litigator. There's just 2. I volunteered for... The point I want to make is I started practicing law and did draft cases, defended draft cases, and there were thousands of attorneys that were volunteering, thousands. That number has shrunk, and that's part of the sign of the times, I think. Part of the reason why I wanted, and along with the co-organizers, to do this event is really to stimulate the interest in attorneys to take these cases, just to help out, to be paralegals, to go to other attorneys so that we can build up our cadre of volunteer attorneys. That's really important. I'll just say a couple words about the NDAA, my perception of it. Just to get technical here, I just want to give you one phrase, and it's the key phrase, is those persons who are a part of or give substantial support to Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, and associated groups with Al-Qaeda and Taliban. The key word in that phrase is substantial support. That's what's been litigated in 2 courts now. Okay, I'm sorry, in the federal district court and the Court of Appeals. That phrase, substantial support, has already been reviewed by a number of courts who repudiated it because it's too vague. Did you get that? Including military courts who have construed that phrase, substantial support, So it's without precedent that the government would introduce this statute, a statute of military detention that's repugnant to our entire history of constitutional law. So what happened in this case is this very courageous federal judge understood the arguments, understood that substantial support has no precedent, no support, and ruled against the government and issued a preliminary injunction and a permanent injunction. There was a wonderful moment at the hearing on the permanent injunction August 7th in New York City. That moment came when the judge, Catherine Forrest, had a colloquy with the U.S. Attorney, Ben Torrance. There was accountability in the courtroom. The government had to answer the questions of the judge. Okay? And they went back and forth for about 20 minutes to a half hour. I was at counsel table. I was amazed, just amazed, because the Constitution was working, and you could feel it. You could just feel it. We have a system of government, an amazing process that allows us to go into federal courts, file a complaint against the government, and demand accountability. That's exactly what we need. That is breaking down. Our access to courts in national security cases are shrinking. Nadia Kayyali, our panelist, will talk about that. Congress is broken. They give us this broken statute. The court system at the top, Supreme Court, is not working either. So what do we have? We have Edward Snowden, and we have Brad Manning. That's what we're talking about. So that's how we fight back. Now I want to introduce our panel. I really want to get to the event. Before I do that, I just want to read off the names of this wonderful litigation team in New York City that was responsible for challenging the government. Bruce Affron, Carl Meyer, David Reams, those are the attorneys, the actual litigation attorneys. We have our paralegals somewhere here. Rita Ague. Here you are. Yes. Yes. Rita flew out from Colorado Springs, drove all the way over here in the traffic. That's something tonight, huh? This baseball game? Amazing. Let me read off these wonderful plaintiffs in our case. Chris Hedges. Our wonderful journalist and Bradley Manning blogger, who's back at Fort Meade now, Alexa O'Brien. Kaiwar Gula, Jennifer Boland, Noam Chomsky, and the last of our plaintiff litigants are sitting at our panel table tonight. We have two. So, I get this great honor of introducing our speakers, and I'm going to start with Daniel Ellsberg. I think I was finishing law school when Daniel released the Pentagon Papers. So the timing is right about so. This is quite a personal honor for me to introduce Daniel. We all know him, of course, and his background is as an anti-war activist, questioned the Vietnam War, led to the releasing of the Pentagon Papers. And Daniel felt and believed strongly that the war in Vietnam was a crime. Daniel is one of the leading consciences of our country, an incredible leader. And I'm going to introduce him first as also a plaintiff litigant in the NDAA. Birgitta Jonsdottir is Birgitta Jonsdottir is a member of a citizen of Iceland, member of the Icelandic Parliament, a member of the Pirate Party, which she will explain. She is also a practicing poetician. Birgitta does many things. She doesn't have a website. She doesn't have a powerful organization. She travels all over the world, advocating, teaching, taking wonderful activist positions. One of the noteworthy things that Birgitta did was being a co-producer of the Wikileaks video, Collateral Murder. The other night when she told me about this, she said it changed her life. And I reflected later and I thought, you know, it changed mine too. So Birgitta's an honored member of our panel tonight. We have Norman Solomon. Journalist, media critic, anti-war activist. I know Norman from campaigning for Congress. Came to my backyard a couple times and talked. And his website is Roots Action. We're going to learn how to fight back. Our final panelist is Nadia Kayyali, who is a member of Nadia's a member and works for and a representative of Bill of Rights Defense Committee, very powerful legal organization, and that's also how we're going to learn tonight what to do. And that's the theme of our event. So let's go to the questions. The first question is 5 minutes or less. It's the same question, okay? 5 minutes or less. That question is, the theme of this panel is Vanishing Civil Liberties. What do you think the general public doesn't know about that they should know about? And Nadia, that's your question.
So how many people here have ever been told that they're a little bit crazy, might believe in too many conspiracy theories, they're paranoid, right? Okay, raise your hands, You're not crazy. And in fact, the more that I do this work, the more I realize that all those conspiracy theories, so-called conspiracy theories, they're real. And I assume that probably most of the people here read the news, have heard about what's going on right now. But this is a very... Is my mic on? Okay, great. So just to give you a very brief breakdown of the revelations last week, which I'm sure other panelists are going to discuss. Last week, of course, we learned about the generalized NSA spying that's going on right now. And to be very specific, there are orders, we know that there's orders to Verizon, but very likely to most major phone companies that allow the NSA to get the metadata, so-called metadata, for all phone calls that are made, and that includes domestic phone calls. And metadata can include the length of the call, the number you called, who you're calling, and actually based on some court decisions could include location from cell phone towers. So that's one piece of spying, of course, that's going on. And then the other thing that we heard about was the PRISM program. I think it's going to be fascinating to see what happens as the tech companies, particularly those located here in the Bay Area that might have slogans like "Don't be evil," get to have their say here. Right?